Welcome back. It's 1:15. With me now is Tom Pratt. He chairs the Unlock Democracy in Birmingham. Tom, welcome to the programme. I'm kind of wondering, 3 days on from the vote, what your take is on all that's gone on since.
It's been very chaotic, quite frankly. Obviously, David Cameron stepped down immediately after the result. That's left a power vacuum in Downing Street. And meanwhile, the Labour Party seem more obsessed with doing down their own leader. The only political party that's really shown any leadership is the SNP, who are very clear that they are going to try to pursue a second referendum in Scotland.
So far as the vote went, I mean, okay, let's start at the beginning. Were you surprised by the outcome?
I was actually, yes. I think on the day itself, the polls actually suggested a clear win for the Remain campaign. I was especially surprised in this area, actually, because I thought, for one, Birmingham would be a Remain stronghold, yet that didn't appear to be the case.
No, I mean, there are 7 local authorities that now make up the West Midlands Combined Authority, and all 7 voted to leave, some by closer margins than others. But in some areas, Sandwell, Walsall and Dudley, it was a 2-1 vote. Yeah,
it's very clear. I mean, there is a lot of anti-EU feeling within the West Midlands.
Is it anti-EU feeling? They're responding because we don't see headlines now about wine lakes and butter mountains. We see nothing but complaints about border controls. We see nothing but complaints about the amount of money. Is that what it's more about?
It's a combination of things. I mean, there has been, I suppose, a deluge, really, of anti-EU headlines on all sorts of subjects, from the likes of the Daily Mail, the Daily Express, the Sun. I suppose after it's built a ground wall of resentment towards the European Union, and some of the figures within it, like Juncker and Tusk, the President of the Commission and the President, and it's all, I suppose, it's sort of, you've also got unhappiness about social conditions, austerity, for example, which the coalition government and the Conservatives.
And are people blaming this on the EU then? Is that what you're saying?
I think they're being encouraged to blame it on the EU.
How much do you think British people were concerned about sovereignty?
Some polls have actually suggested that a lot of people were motivated to vote to leave because they wanted British politicians to be seemingly more in control of lawmaking. Now, I mean, the European Union does have an impact on our laws, but at the end of it, they can only do it with agreement from the British Parliament.
Yeah, fair enough. What about immigration? There were so many headlines about it. There are so many photographs. People sitting on cliff tops in Calais, just waiting for the chance to nip down there, get on a boat and come across and hopefully come to something else. How much have you found while the campaign was going on that immigration was a big factor?
It was a big factor for a certain group of people. I think a lot of it has been again stoked up by the national media. I mean, for example, immigration, the 333,000 which came in. Yeah. Over half of it was actually from outside the European Union. There was a lot of misinformation about the possibility of Turkey joining the European Union. That was a big component of the Vote Leave campaign. I think, rightly or wrongly, it has played on people's minds.
But what about Nigel Farage? Because he at one stage says there'll be £350 million coming the way of the NHS all the time. And then he actually admitted in an interview at the weekend, well, that actually wasn't quite true. It's either true or it isn't. I mean, what are we to believe if that is the case?
Well, the Vote Leave campaign, certainly, their battle bus, for example, was quite clear that we apparently spend £350 million a week on the EU at the moment. Let's give it to the NHS. They did also, during the campaign, suggest some other commitments. But I think on the whole, it seems that they were getting people to think about the NHS as a key spending priority.
Yeah. Unlock Democracy.
Yes.
What can it do, or what does it do?
It's a campaigning organisation for political reform in the United Kingdom. It covers a lot of areas, for example, electoral reform to our national elections and local elections. We also campaign around taking out the big business lobbying element in politics. So
does Unlock Democracy stand as a group so far as the EU goes?
they were neutral on that issue because that's.
Could you afford to be neutral on something like this?
I think an organisation can, yes, because it's about Unlock Democracy is primarily concerned with British democracy. I suppose a debate around EU democracy, that it's an interesting one, but it's not necessarily in our remit.
Okay, so what sort of reaction did you have in the spell leading up to the vote last Thursday?
In terms of
well, just how people reacted to, you explained to them what Unlock Democracy is. How did people react?
I think people like what we were doing around the European referendum, encouraging people to critically debate the issues that most concern them. It got people to think about, I suppose, issues in more detail, consider different points of view, consider what really drives them in their heart, head, and just their gut instincts.
Laudable as the idea of unlocking democracy is, my gut feeling is that it's something that people who like politics would be interested in, but unless you are that way inclined, you won't know, yeah, right, okay.
Well, I think it's relevant to everybody. I mean, I think the reason we had a really high turnout in this referendum is, compared to most general elections, local elections, because you actually had something at stake. And certainly in his comments during the counting, Ian Duncan Smith sort of confirmed that there was more at stake here. I think the electoral system in our country, first past the post, it shuts out a lot of people because there's about over 400 safe seats across the country, and I mean most of the seats in this area are safe.
Yes.
There's not much impetus to go out and vote because the same people or the same parties will always end up on top.
I mean, you talk about wanting open and honest debate. I mean, the one thing that people don't think politicians are is open or honest, isn't it? Well, I mean, is that a fair comment from people?
I think it's a fair comment, yeah. Certainly, the Leave campaign certainly made some promises, like over the NHS, or the £350 million per week, which are looking spurious at best. I think the Remain leaders like David Cameron and George Osborne, they basically overclaimed as part of their Project Fear effort.
Was David Cameron right to say he was going on Friday?
I think he had to go, really. If it had up to me, he wouldn't be hanging around until October. He'd have gone straight away.
But if he did that, it's difficult to know quite what they would have done, isn't it? Because somebody's got to take charge of leading us out, getting us out of the EU, which, I mean, that could take 2 years. Well,
yeah, it would take 2 years. Crucially, what's happened is that during the referendum campaign, David Cameron said that if the British people voted to leave, he'd activate Article 50 immediately. He hasn't actually done this yet, and he's left it up to his successor to do it. So we could be in the European Union for another 2 years, as you said. It might even be longer because the negotiations could actually take a long time.
And meanwhile, there's the Labour Party, for whom things could scarcely be worse. I think, if I can remember accurately, before I came on there, they said that 16 shadow cabinet have quit. He's been told by his number 2 that he must go because he hasn't got their support. And then they've got to have another election. I mean, we are in a bit of a mess, aren't we, at the moment?
Exactly, yeah. It's very frustrating what's happening with the Labour Party, because essentially over the weekend the Conservatives, and that includes Michael Gove, Boris Johnson, Osborne Cameron, they've all gone to ground. Now, Osborne made a statement today, but it still hasn't seemed to reassure the markets.
No.
I think the Labour Party has a very big job to do, because in a lot of our areas there was a leave vote, and so obviously there seems to be a disconnect there between the Labour Party and their core voters.
Yes, I mean that's one of the arguments, isn't it? And I suppose now that we actually have got an answer that people say no, we want out, they've all got to play their part, haven't they? And while the Conservatives are sorting it out, this really should be a time for Labour to absolutely be scoring points, and
absolutely, yeah.
They're not at all, are they?
No, they're just focused on, I mean, crucially, the headlines are all about Labour rather than, I suppose, the wider issues. I would sort of take you up on the sort of it was a clear outcome, because there was still 48% of people in
Yes.
this country, and
Agreed.
they still wanted to remain. And I mean, the turnout was high, but there are still good quarter of people that didn't actually vote at all.
Yes.
They didn't express preference either way. And then I think there's the other issue of the young people that did vote.
Yeah.
75% of them wanted to stay in the European Union.
Yeah.
And as the future of this country, we've got to work out a way of, I suppose, helping them really.
Understand, possibly, is the word you need, yeah. And in the meantime, we are going, and that we know. Tom Pratt, thank you for joining us. That's it for the moment. We are going to take a break. See you in a few minutes.